All right, friends, welcome back to another Able Speaks podcast episode. And this one is actually really going to be speaking to the friends and the family, the community of the family that is walking through a pregnancy with a life-limiting diagnosis. And so you might be listening to this, and our hope is maybe that if you're, if we're talking to mom and dad right now, then it's like, ooh, this would be really helpful to somehow strategically slip to some people who want to be helpful and not really being very helpful. Or if you're listening to this, which we hope is the case, as the support network and the support system for a family walking this road, then here's going to be just some tips for you. And so today's edition is going to be bad assumptions. And so you told me not to do it. I'm going to do it anyways. We all want to be a badass friend, but to be a badass friend in this season, you need to not make these badass assumptions. Okay?
So bad.
5 of them. Here we go. First one, assume that you need to have all the right words. So basically saying nothing is better than risking saying something and that something being hurtful or not the right thing. That's the first thing we'd assume. Don't assume that.
Yeah, I think hopefully to alleviate the pressure, we've walked with over 300 families through Able Speaks at this point, and I still say the wrong thing sometimes. And I look back later, I'm like, why did I say that? Why did I say it like that? I wish I could put all those words back in my mouth. But ultimately, what people remember is that you tried, and as the person walking through this, we have to show grace and assume the best in people. But trying and not doing it perfectly is better than just not saying anything at all.
Yeah. There's certain things that it's like, hey, at least, or hey, like if you're trying to come in too hot and too fast with the let's feel better sort of sentiments, yeah, maybe refrain on those. But don't feel like you need to have these amazing, profound, perfect words in order to reach out and communicate something. So don't assume that you need to have all the right words. Number 2, don't assume that other people are checking in. And so I think a lot of times like, oh, I'm sure they have visitors all the time. Their text inbox is just blowing up. I don't want to be a burden. I'll just kind of play the background.
Yep. Yeah, and I think too sometimes if we do check in and then we don't hear back, maybe we choose not to do that again. And just know that so many people reached out to us when we were pregnant with Abel, when we had him and he was alive, when he passed away. And we just didn't have the capacity at that time to respond to every message, but we read every message or every voicemail or card that was sent to us or whatever it was. And all of it was meaningful and was at the perfect time. I can't tell you how many times people would reach out and it would be a hard day for one reason or another. And sometimes those sentiments were the things that spurred us on for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, so don't assume that other people are always checking in. And again, that kind of ties back to the first point too. Don't assume that you have to hit a home run and just say these amazing things every time. They can be short, sweet. Just let them know you're thinking about them. Simple. Less is more. And so, 3rd, don't assume that they will reach out to you if they need something. And so I think this is a big one. Yeah.
I think most of the time, people who really do care will say something of like, hey, let me know if I can do anything to help. And as the person...
And mean it, wholeheartedly.
100%.
Call me if you need something.
Yeah. But the reality is the person walking through grief, A, often can't put words on or doesn't even fully know what they need. And B, they're just probably not going to reach out because that takes a lot of just mental and emotional effort. And it's hard for people sometimes to ask for help. And so, yeah, I would just say try to meet needs as you see them. And even if it's something small, it doesn't have to be anything profound, but it just makes people feel like they are not in the boat alone.
Yeah, that's good. And so those first 3, really, you can apply those to any number of situations where somebody is walking through something hard and you'd like to comfort a friend who's going through grief of some kind. And so these last 2 are more specific to our demographic and to our niche. So the 4th one is don't assume that hearing their child's name will make them sad or will be hard, and therefore to avoid it or to not use their child's name.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to hear that, like, every parent loves to talk about their child. They like to hear their child's name, and that's true of parents of loss as well. And sometimes even more meaningful because you have such few opportunities to hear people talk about your child by name or reference them in some capacity. And so it doesn't. Parents who have experienced loss, they don't forget. They're not like walking through the day forgetting, and so you're not reminding them of something hard. Their child is constantly on their heart and mind, and actually bringing them up, saying their name, and allowing the parents to share anything that might be stirring that day regarding their child is something that is a real gift. And so don't shy away from and actually move towards saying their child's name and including them in any opportunity that you get.
That's good. So the fifth and final bad assumption would be to assume that as you're in with the long haul, hopefully, with somebody, don't assume that any other kids will reduce or take the grief away. Specifically like future kind of subsequent pregnancies or, it's a healthy child this time. Manage what you assume or expect the impact of that is on a parent of loss.
Yeah, sometimes people might say like, well, at least you have other children, or if you get pregnant again after loss, it kind of, people feel like, oh, well, now that you're pregnant again, it's not, the pain is less. And I would just say it changes the pain, and it is such a joy to get to experience having subsequent children. But it doesn't take the pain away from the child that you did lose.
And most importantly, I think the punchline there is just it doesn't, a subsequent healthy child does not in any way replace the child that is no longer in the family's home. And so they will forever be a unique, treasured, cherished entity that is a part of the family, that the family will always be, a man down or a woman down from that point forward, and no amount of future kids will change that. And so there's a way to beautifully, I think, strike that balance of celebrating the blessing and the joy that comes from a growing family while also not negating the life of the child that's no longer in the home. So those were 5
quick hitters
right there. And so if you want to be a badass friend, don't make those bad assumptions right there. Okay. Anything else before we wrap up?
I think
you can't top that.
Did it.
You can't top
that was enough.
All right. We're going to wrap it up for this episode, Family and Friends edition of the Able Speaks podcast. We'll see you next time.